Thick fog envelopes Harlan's Gap, West Virginia. One morning, Jacob Miller's pickup truck is found abandoned at the entrance to Blackridge Mine, with the door open, the keys in the ignition, and Jacob missing. All that remains is a thermos of warm coffee. A devoted father and explorer, Jacob was searching for the mine's secrets, but something went wrong. Locals whisper about the cursed mine and the hidden treasure buried deep within it. The police found a bloodstained note and fresh traces of digging in the tunnel. Will these clues help uncover the truth, or will they drag investigators deeper into the sinister shadows of Blackridge? The fog clung to the Appalachian hills like a shroud, muting the world into shades of gray and green. It was the kind of morning in Harlan's Gap, West Virginia, where the air tasted metallic, laced with the faint, eternal residue of coal dust from mines long shuttered. Emily Carter's pickup truck rattled along the winding dirt road toward the old Blackridge mine, its entrance a yawning black maw carved into the mountainside decades ago. The radio crackled with static, a local station droning on about another factory closure up in Charleston, but Emily barely heard it. She was late for her shift at the diner, but Jacob had promised to meet her at the trailhead for coffee before he headed out on one of his adventures. Jacob Miller, her older brother by 3 years, had always been the restless one. While Emily had stayed put, slinging hash browns and black coffee at Millie's diner for the past decade, Jacob chased ghosts in the hills, abandoned shafts, forgotten relics of the town's mining heyday. History's buried down there, he'd say with that lopsided grin, his blue eyes sparkling under the brim of his faded ball cap. But today, as Emily crested the rise, her heart stuttered. Jacob's rusted Ford F-150 sat crookedly at the mine's barricaded entrance, driver's door ajar, engine off. No sign of him, just the low hum of wind whistling through the chain-link fence and the distant caw of crows circling overhead. She slammed her door and approached, boots crunching on gravel slick with dew. "Jake, you out here?" Her voice echoed back from the rock face, thin and swallowed by the mist. Inside the truck, his thermos lay on the seat, coffee still steaming faintly. His backpack was gone, but his phone charger dangled from the dash, and keys swung in the ignition. Panic bloomed in her chest, like ice cracking underfoot. Jacob never left his truck like this, unlocked, exposed. He knew these hills better than anyone, knew the stories of men who'd vanished into the earth, claimed by cave-ins or bad air. Emily's mind flashed to their childhood, raised in a clapboard house on the edge of town after their parents died in a car wreck on these same twisting roads. Jacob had been her anchor then, the big brother who taught her to fish in the murky creeks and sneak cigarettes behind the old schoolhouse. But guilt gnawed at her now, a familiar ache. She'd been the one to push him toward these explorations last year, after his divorce from Sarah left him hollowed out. "Get out there, Jake. Find something that lights you up again," she'd said over beers at the VFW hall. Now, staring into Mine's void, she wondered if she'd nudged him too far. According to the initial police report filed that afternoon, Harlan's Gap PD case, #HG, 2025-091. Emily Carter arrived at the station at 9:47 a.m., her face pale and streaked with mud. "My brother's gone," she told the desk sergeant, voice trembling. "His truck's up at Blackridge." Door open, like he just stepped away. The report noted her history, a DUI from 5 years back, after a rough patch with painkillers following a back injury at the diner. But Emily was clean now, 2 years sober, and the sergeant knew the Millers, good folk, salt of the earth. He radioed Sheriff Elias Donovan, who was nursing a hangover in his office, the kind that came from too many nights staring at cold case files. Sheriff Donovan was a broad-shouldered man in his late 40s, with a salt-and-pepper beard and eyes shadowed by failures that Harlan's Gap whispered about in diners and barbershops. 15 years ago, he led a rescue op into the same Blackridge mine after a collapse trapped 3 locals during an illegal scavenging run. Only 2 came out alive. The third was his deputy, a kid fresh from the academy. Donovan had hesitated on a call, second-guessing the structural integrity, and the guilt had carved lines into his face like pickaxe scars. He grabbed his hat and drove out to the site, Emily trailing in her truck, the fog thickening into a drizzle that pattered on windshields like impatient fingers. At the mine entrance, Donovan shone his flashlight into the gloom, the beam cutting through veils of moisture. The barricade, a rusted gate with faded danger, unstable shaft signs, had been pried open just enough for a man to slip through. Boot prints led inside, scuffed and fresh, vanishing into the dark. "Looks like he went involuntary," Donovan muttered, his voice gravelly from years of chain-smoking Winstons. He turned to Emily, rain dripping from his Stetson. "Any reason he'd go poking around in there? Blackridge has been off-limits since '98. Bad gas, cave-ins, you name it." Emily wrapped her arms around herself, the chills seeping through her flannel shirt. He collects stuff. Old tools, helmets. Says it's for a book he's writing on the mines." But even as she said it, doubt crept in. Jacob had mentioned a tip last week, over pancakes at Millie's, something about a big fine from an old-timer at the bar. "Could be worth something, Em. Get us out of this hole." She'd laughed it off, but now the words echoed like a warning. The sheriff called in a search team, a handful of volunteers from the fire department, equipped with hard hats and lanterns. By noon, the site buzzed with activity, radios crackling, dogs barking as they sniffed the perimeter. Harlan's Gap, population 1,200, was the kind of place where news traveled faster than the Amtrak through the valley. Folks gathered at the road's edge, old miners with lungs black from coal, housewives clutching thermoses, kids on bikes peering through the mist. Whispers spread like wildfire. "Miller boy always was reckless. Heard he owed money to that crew up in Beckley. Mines swallow people whole. My granddaddy said so." In a taped interview later that day for the local Gazette, headline, "Local man vanishes into forbidden mine." Emily sat in the sheriff's office, fluorescent lights buzzing overhead, the smell of stale coffee thick in the air. "Jacob's not the type to just disappear," she insisted, twisting a napkin in her hands. "He's got a daughter, Lily. She's 8. Lives with his ex in Charleston, but he sees her every weekend." Her voice cracked. "If he's hurt down there..." The reporter, a young kid named Tyler from the city, nodded sympathetically, but Emily saw the skepticism. Small towns bred suspicion. Everyone had skeletons, and the Millers were no secret. Their father's gambling debts, their mother's quiet despair. As the afternoon wore on, the drizzle turned to a steady rain, turning the ground to mud that sucked at boots like quicksand. Donovan coordinated from his SUV, maps spread on the hood, marking entry points. "We can't go in blind," he told his deputy, a wiry woman named Reyes. "Last time we rushed Blackridge, it cost us." But pressure mounted. The community demanded action. By dusk, with flashlights piercing the gloom, a preliminary team ventured in. 2 volunteers roped together, gas meters beeping warnings of methane pockets. Emily paced the perimeter, her mind a whirlwind of memories. Jacob at 16, pulling her from the creek after she'd fallen in during a storm. Jacob last Christmas, showing up with a necklace for Lily, his eyes red from arguing with Sarah. "I messed up, Em," he'd confessed, "but I'm fixing it." What if this big find was his way out? Poaching artifacts from the mine wasn't legal, but in Harlan's Gap, where the economy clung to scraps, tourism, odd jobs, welfare, folks turned a blind eye. Night fell heavy, the mountains swallowing the last light. Generators hummed, floodlights casting long shadows that danced like specters. Donovan approached Emily, handing her a styrofoam cup of coffee. "We're calling in state troopers for morning. Drones, maybe thermal imaging if the weather clears." His voice softened, a rare crack in his armor. "I know what it's like waiting, but rushing in there, it's suicide." She nodded, but sleep evaded her that night in her childhood home, the one Jacob had helped her fix up after the flood 2 years back. Rain lashed the tin roof, thunder rumbling like distant explosions in the shafts. She rifled through his things in the guest room. A journal filled with sketches of mine layouts, notes on hidden veins and forgotten gear. One entry chilled her. Met with R at the bar. Says there's a cache from 72 collapse. Worth thousands. But watch your back. Old grudges die hard. Who is R? And what grudges? Dawn broke gray and unforgiving, the fog lifting just enough for the state team to arrive. Helicopters thumped overhead, dropping supplies. A drone operator from Charleston set up, his equipment humming to life. Thermal cam picks up heat signatures, he explained to the crowd. If he's alive down there, we'll spot him. Emily watched the screen, a grainy mosaic of blues and blacks. The mine's interior a labyrinth of tunnels snaking deep into the earth. Hours ticked by, the drone navigating shafts narrowed by collapses, its echoing like a mechanical insect. Then a ping. Got something, the operator said, voice tight. The screen bloomed with a faint orange glow, a human-shaped heat signature, curled in a side tunnel about 200 feet in. Cheers erupted, but Emily's blood ran cold. It was too still, too isolated. Donovan radioed the rescue team. Move in, but careful, could be unstable. Emily insisted on going, but he held her back. Not yet. The wait was agony, minutes stretching like hours, the radio crackling with updates. Approaching now, signs of disturbance, footprints, tools scattered. Then static burst. Sheriff? We've got him. But, Jesus, it's bad. Emily pushed forward as they emerged, stretchers in tow. Jacob's body, pale, battered, eyes staring blankly, was hoisted out, mud-caked and cold despite the thermal hit. Wait, cold. The operator frowned at his screen. Signatures fading fast. Must have been residual. But as medics zipped the bag, Donovan knelt, flashlight glinting on something clutched in Jacob's rigid hand. A crumpled note, smeared with blood. Unfolding it under the floodlights, his face hardened. The words, scrawled in hurried ink, they knew I'd find it. Tell M, it's not an accident. R is coming for you next. The rain intensified, drowning out the gasps. Emily staggered back, the world tilting. Her brother hadn't just vanished into the dark. He'd been lured there, and whatever shadow had claimed him was still out there, watching from the fog-shrouded hills. The rain didn't let up in Harlan's Gap, as if the sky itself mourned Jacob Miller's death. By the following morning, the town was a mire of mud and suspicion, the air thick with the smell of wet earth and pine. Emily Carter stood outside the county morgue, a squat brick building on the edge of town, its neon sign flickering like a dying pulse. Inside, Jacob's body lay under a sterile sheet, his face bruised and hollow, the autopsy pending. The note clutched in his hand. They knew I'd find it. Tell M, it's not an accident. R is coming for you next, burned in her mind like a brand. She hadn't slept, hadn't eaten, just sat in her truck through the night, replaying every conversation with her brother, searching for clues in his words, his silences. Sheriff Elias Donovan had sealed the note in an evidence bag, his jaw tight as he muttered about keeping this quiet until they knew more. But Harlan's Gap was a sieve for secrets. By noon, whispers slithered through Millie's Diner, the VFW hall, the gas station where old men swapped stories over chewing tobacco. Jacob found something he shouldn't have, they said. Blackridge Mine's cursed, always has been. Emily overheard all, pouring coffee with shaking hands, her apron stained with grease and grief. Customers stared, some with pity, others with that small-town mix of curiosity and judgment. She wanted to scream, to shake them until they spat out what they knew about R or the cash Jacob had chased. Instead, she gripped her notepad and kept moving, the diner's jukebox whining a Merle Haggard tune, its melancholy twang a fitting score for the day. The official police report, Harlan's Gap PD case #HG 2025-091, Supplement 1, logged the preliminary coroner's findings at 11:23 a.m. Jacob Miller, 36, cause of death pending toxicology, blunt force trauma to skull, multiple contusions, likely from a fall or impact. Time of death estimated between 2 a.m. and 4 a.m., September 8, 2025. The report noted the note's discovery and its cryptic warning, now under analysis for fingerprints and ink type. Sheriff Donovan, still haunted by the Blackridge collapse of '98, ordered the mine sealed again, but not before a second drone sweep revealed something chilling. Fresh tool marks on a collapsed tunnel wall, as if someone had been digging before Jacob's body was found. Could be his, Donovan told his deputy, Reyes, over a crackling radio. Or someone else was down there with him. Emily couldn't stay still. She left the diner early, ignoring her boss's protests, and drove to Jacob's trailer on the outskirts of town, a rusted single-wide perched on cinder blocks. The place smelled of motor oil and stale beer, his life scattered in relics. A stack of mining journals, a photo of Lily pinned to the fridge, a half-empty bottle of Jim Beam on the counter. She tore through his things, desperate for answers. His laptop, password-protected, yielded nothing. But under his bed, stuffed in a shoebox, she found a manila envelope labeled Blackridge 72. Inside were yellowed newspaper clippings from the Charleston Gazette, detailing a cave-in that killed 6 miners during a strike. One article mentioned a rumor. The company had hidden a payroll stash, cash and gold coins, in a sealed shaft to avoid union demands. Never recovered, the article read. Suspected stolen by surviving foreman. Her pulse quickened. Jacob's journal had mentioned a cache from 72 collapse. Was this what he'd been chasing? And who was R? She scanned the articles for names. The foreman, Ray Whitaker, had vanished after the incident, blamed for cutting safety corners. Could R be Ray? But Whitaker would be in his 70s now, if he was even alive. Emily's hands trembled as she stuffed the envelope into her jacket. She needed to talk to Donovan, but trust was thin. The sheriff had his own demons, and the town's gossip painted him as a man who'd let a deputy die rather than risk his own skin. At the station, Donovan was hunched over a desk cluttered with coffee cups and case files, the fluorescent buzz overhead making his face look gaunt. "Emily, you shouldn't be here," he said, not unkindly, but with an edge that warned her to back off. She didn't. "I found something," she said, sliding the envelope across the desk. Jacob was looking into the 72 collapse. "A payroll stash. You think someone killed him over it?" Donovan's eyes narrowed, scanning the clippings. "This is ancient history. No proof that stash ever existed." But his fingers lingered on the page, betraying interest. He sighed, rubbing his temples. "Look, I get it. You want answers. But you're not a cop, and this ain't a game. Whoever wrote that note knows you're involved now. You go digging, you're painting a target on your back." Emily's jaw tightened. "I'm already a target. R is coming for you next, remember?" She leaned in, voice low. "You know this town, Sheriff. People talk. Someone knows who R is. And I'm not waiting for them to come for me." Donovan hesitated, then pulled a file from a drawer, an old case from 2010, another missing person linked to Blackridge. Tommy Hargrove, a drifter who'd been poking around the mine, vanished without a trace. No body, no leads, just a backpack found near the entrance with a single item, a rusted miner's pick, etched with the initials RW. Emily's breath caught. Ray Whitaker again? Or someone else using his name? Tommy was a nobody, Donovan said. No family, no ties. Case went cold fast. But if Jacob stumbled onto the same thing, he trailed off, the weight of his own failures heavy in the air. "I'll look into it. But you stay out of the mine, Emily." "I mean it." She nodded, but the lie sat bitter on her tongue. She wasn't staying out of anything. Not when Jacob's last words were a warning meant for her. That night, Harlan's Gap buzzed with new rumors. A grainy photo circulated on X, posted by a local teen, a figure in a hooded jacket near the mine entrance. taken hours before Jacob's body was found. The image was blurry, but the silhouette was tall, lean, moving with purpose. Emily saved it to her phone, her gut twisting. She drove to the VFW hall, where the old-timers gathered, hoping to shake loose a name. The bar smelled of stale cigarettes and spilled whiskey, the jukebox now silent, replaced by the low drone of a TV replaying a news segment. Local man found dead in Blackridge Mine. Police suspect foul play. She cornered Old Man Carver, a retired miner who'd known her father. His hands, gnarled from decades underground, clutched a beer as he squinted at her. Jacob was asking about Ray Whitaker, he admitted after some prodding. Said he met someone claiming they knew where the 72 stash was. I told him to let go. That mine's got a way of eating folks who ask too many questions. Who'd he meet? Emily pressed, her voice sharp. Carver's eyes darted to the door, like he expected someone to walk in. Didn't say a name, just said they were connected. Someone with a grudge against the company, maybe, or the town. The word grudge echoed Jacob's note. Emily's mind raced. The mining company, Harlan Coal, had folded in the 90s, but its shadow lingered. Families still bitter over lost jobs, lost lives. She thanked Carver and left, the night air biting her cheeks as she stepped into the parking lot. That's when she saw it. Her truck's rear window smashed, glass glittering on the gravel. On the driver's seat lay a single item, a miner's helmet, cracked and caked with dirt, the initials RW scratched into the brim. Her heart pounded as she scanned the lot. Shadows move in the tree line, or maybe it was the wind. She grabbed the helmet and drove home, locking every door. Her old revolver, Jacob's, really, loaded on the nightstand. Sleep was impossible. Every creak of the house was a footstep, every gust of wind a whisper. She opened Jacob's journal again, finding a new entry she'd missed. R says the stash is real. But it's not just money. It's proof. Someone's been watching me. I'm close, Em. Too close. The next morning, she called Donovan, voice shaking as she described the helmet. He arrived within the hour, bagging it as evidence, his face grim. This is escalating, he said. You need to stay with someone. Your aunt, a friend. No, Emily snapped. I'm not running. But fear clawed at her, raw and relentless. She spent the day chasing leads, starting with Sarah, Jacob's ex, who lived in a tidy duplex in Charleston. Sarah was pale, holding Lily's hand like a lifeline. He was in debt, she admitted, voice low so Lily wouldn't hear. Owed some guys from Beckley. I told him to stop messing with those mines, but he said he'd found a way to make it right for Lily. Debt. Another piece of the puzzle. Emily drove back to Harlan's Gap, the hills looming like silent judges. At the station, Donovan shared a new report. The note's ink matched a pen found in the mine, and Jacob's blood was on it. But no prints, no DNA. Someone had been careful. Too careful. By dusk, Emily was back at the mine, against Donovan's orders. She couldn't wait for bureaucracy while I was out there. The entrance loomed, barricade freshly reinforced, but she slipped through a gap, flashlight in hand, the air inside cold and damp, smelling of earth and decay. Her boots echoed in the silence, the walls glistening with moisture. She followed Jacob's map from his journal, leading to a side shaft. There, carved into the rock, was a fresh mark, a crude R, jagged like a warning. A sound, metal on stone, echoed deeper in. She froze, heart hammering. Then, a voice low and deliberate. You shouldn't be here, Emily. She spun, flashlight catching a figure in the shadows, tall, hooded, holding a pickaxe. Before she could scream, the ground shook, dust raining down. The figure lunged, and everything went black. The darkness was absolute, a suffocating blanket that pressed against Emily Carter's eyelids. Her head throbbed, a dull pulse radiating from where the blow had landed. She lay on cold stone, the air thick with the sour tang of damp rock, and something sharper, blood, maybe her own. Her flashlight was gone, but a faint glow flickered nearby, a lantern casting jagged shadows on the walls of Blackridge Mine. The echo of dripping water mingled with her ragged breaths, and for a moment she thought she was dead, buried alive with Jacob. Then the voice came again, low and deliberate, slicing through the haze. "You're just like him, Emily. Too stubborn for your own good." She blinked, vision swimming, and saw the figure from the shadows, tall, lean, the hooded jacket from the blurry X photo, now clear in the dim light. The man stepped forward, his face half hidden, but the eyes were unmistakable, sharp, haunted, carrying a weight older than his years. He held a pickaxe loosely, its tip crusted with dirt and something darker. Emily's hand scrambled for her revolver, but it was gone, likely stripped while she was out. Panic surged, but she forced it down, her voice hoarse. "Who are you? What do you want?" The man crouched, setting the lantern between them, its glow revealing a face weathered by time and resentment. Ray Whitaker, the foreman from the 72 collapse, now in his late 70s, gray hair thinning under the hood, jaw set like a man who'd carried a grudge for decades. "You don't get to ask questions," he said, voice rough as gravel. "You Millers never did know when to stop digging." Emily's mind raced, piecing together fragments from Jacob's journal, the newspaper clippings, the whispers at the VFW. Ray Whitaker, blamed for the deaths of 6 miners, vilified and driven out of Harlan's Gap. The payroll stash, cash and gold from Harlan Coal, hidden to screw over the striking workers, had been his obsession, his redemption. Jacob had found it, or come close, and paid with his life. And now, here she was, trapped in the same maze of tunnels, the note's warning ringing true. "R is coming for you next." Above ground, Sheriff Elias Donovan was losing patience. The call had come at dawn, Emily's truck spotted near the mine entrance, the barricade breached again. He cursed under his breath, rain-soaked boots slipping on a muddy path as he rallied the search team. The state troopers were back, drones buzzing overhead, but the mine's labyrinthine depths mocked their efforts. Deputy Reyes, her face grim, handed him a report. The miner's helmet left in Emily's truck had traces of Jacob's blood, linking it to the murder scene. "Whoever this is, they're toying with us," she said. "And Emily's in there." Donovan's gut twisted. He'd failed Jacob, hesitated too long, and now Emily was gone, maybe dead. The Blackridge collapse of '98 flashed in his mind. The deputy he'd lost, the screams muffled by falling rock. He grabbed a radio. "We're going in. Full gear, no delays." The team moved, roped together, gas meters beeping, their flashlights carving paths through the dark. Outside, Harlan's Gap held its breath. The town gathered at the road's edge, faces pale under umbrellas. The local news van filming for the evening broadcast. Second disappearance at Blackridge Mine sparks fear of serial killer. Below, Emily forced herself to sit up, pain shooting through her ribs. Ray paced the tunnel, his pickaxe scraping the wall, sparking memories of Jacob's sketches, maps leading to this very shaft. "You killed him," she said, voice steady despite the fear. "Jacob, over some old money." Ray's laugh was bitter, a sound like breaking glass. "Money? You think this is about money?" He knelt, eyes blazing. "Harlan Coal, let those men die. Blame me. Said I cut corners. I was following orders, their orders. That stash was my proof, hidden by the bosses to starve out the union. I've spent 50 years tracking it, and your brother," he shook his head. "He found it. Thought he could cash in, but he didn't know what it cost." Emily's eyes darted to the lantern, then the tunnel behind him. She needed time, needed to keep him talking. "So you lured him here? Left that note to scare me." Ray's face darkened. "I didn't write no note. Someone else knew he was poking around. Someone who wanted me exposed." He stood, gripping the pickaxe tighter. "And now you're here, stirring it all up again." Her blood ran cold. "If I didn't write the note, who did?" "Another player. Someone watching from the shadows, using Jacob's death to flush Ray out." Her mind flashed to the bar, Old Man Carver's nervous glance, Sarah's mention of Jacob's deaths. The pieces didn't fit, not yet, but she knew one thing. Ray was a killer, and she was next unless she acted. The tunnel shook faintly, dust sifting from the ceiling, a sign of the rescue team, maybe, or another collapse waiting to happen. Emily seized the moment, lunging for the lantern and smashing it against the wall. Darkness swallowed them, Ray's curse echoing as she scrambled backward, feeling her way along the damp stone. Her fingers brushed something metal. Her revolver dropped in the scuffle. She grabbed it, heart pounding, and fired blindly into the dark, the blast deafening in the confined space. Ray's grunt told her she'd hit something, but footsteps retreated, fading into the maze. She stumbled forward, guided by memory and desperation. Jacob's map burned into her mind. The air grew thinner, her breath shallow as she navigated turns, the revolver heavy in her hand. Then voices distant but real. "Emily, call out." It was Donovan, his team close. She shouted, voice cracking, and light flooded the tunnel as flashlights found her. Hands pulled her up, faces blurred. Donovan, Reyes, a paramedic. "He's here," she gasped. "Ray Whitaker. He killed Jacob." The team fanned out, but Ray was gone, vanished into the mine's depths like a ghost. They found blood on the floor, his, maybe hers, but no body. The search continued, drones mapping uncharted shafts, but Blackridge seemed to protect its secrets, swallowing Ray as it had so many before. Weeks later, Harlan's Gap was a media circus. News trucks lined Main Street, reporters quoting locals for their Netflix docuseries, The Blackridge Curse. Emily sat in the courtroom, testifying at Ray Whitaker's in absentia trial. His body never found, his fate unknown. The stash was recovered, a rusted lockbox of gold coins and cash, hidden behind a false wall, worth enough to tempt a desperate man like Jacob. But the note's author remained a mystery, fingerprints absent, ink untraceable. Someone else was out there, pulling strings, and Emily felt their eyes every night, the gravel crunching outside her window. According to the final police report, Harlan's Gap PD case #HG 2025-091, Supplement 3, the investigation remained open. Ray Whitaker, presumed dead or fled, was charged with Jacob Miller's murder, based on Emily's testimony and forensic evidence. Blood on the pickaxe matched Jacob's. The notes suggested a second suspect, but leads dried up. Emily moved to Charleston, closer to Lily, but the mind's shadow followed. She kept Jacob's journal, its pages a reminder of his voice, his dreams. The trial ended with no closure, just scars. Harlan's Gap rebuilt its barricades, but the mine whispered on, a wound in the earth that refused to heal. Emily drove past it one last time, the hills cloaked in fog, the air heavy with cold dust and memory. She didn't look back, but she couldn't shake the feeling that someone, was still watching, waiting for the next soul to wander too close to the dark. Even now, some nights, she hears the gravel crunch outside her window,